I figured I might try to promote some stuff while I'm on here.
No, that's exactly what I wanted you to do, dude. So we're getting started right now, and basically welcome everybody to Comic Book Corner. This is the question session, and the first one is with Mr. Kurt Belcher, and I want to thank Kurt a lot for being here today. And I'm holding a copy of one of Kurt's very proud works. I really like this a lot. He sent it to me recently.
Oh,
Oh, gee.
oh
So, Kurt, I definitely want to have you promote
boy.
while you're here today. And any questions I ask you, if they're too sensitive, my friend, obviously you don't have to answer.
No, I don't think any questions will be too sensitive for me.
Yeah,
So,
I didn't think so either. All right, man. Hang on one second. All right.
up front, we should probably say that we're both from Kentucky, but we've never
Absolutely.
met or talked before this except on Facebook.
I think that that's absolutely appropriate that we talk about that because that's completely crazy. We've been friends for probably 10 years now or more, 10 or
Yep,
11 years. We've
yep.
never met, yet we're both from Kentucky. I live in California. Where do
Mhm.
you live right now?
I live in Eastern Kentucky, so
Where,
that's about as far away in the United States as you can get without being in the ocean, basically.
now, I have friends that are from all over, family and friends all over from Kentucky. And I had a few friends when I was in college that were like from Pikeville. And of course, it's not Pikeville, it's Pikeville if you're from the area.
Like,
Are you from Pikeville?
I'm from about half an hour away from there. I'm from Elkhorn City originally. I was born in Pikeville, but
I gotcha.
I actually grew up in Elkhorn City.
Right on, dude. Well, you know, we are going to meet soon. I'm very confident of that. As soon as all this COVID mess is over, I'm going to make a trip to Kentucky because I have family in Elizabethtown
Yeah.
and friends all over, and they've been wanting to see me. And I thought that, you know, it's wild because, like you said, 10 years later, we'll finally get to sit down somewhere and have a beer. And I don't know if you
Yeah.
smoke weed, but maybe we'll smoke a joint too.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you a couple of questions, man, because I'm really curious because we have been friends for so long. Do you remember the first comic book that you ever got?
The first comic that I ever got, as in like the first, like as a kid, the first thing
Yeah,
I got.
yeah. What was it, and who got it for you? How did you get into comics? For
I
me,
don't
it was
know.
my uncle Tony. You know.
When I was a kid, my older brother Pat, he was a comic book reader and collector, and
Hmm.
so I got a lot of hand me downs from him.
I gotcha.
And so my first book, probably I don't even remember what it was. It was probably some
It,
Marvel comic or something because he
uh,
was a Marvel zombie, Marvel zombie. So
what's funny is
I definitely took it from him.
my uncle was a DC zombie, but he
Yeah,
had a few Marvel books, and I was really into Spider-Man, and so I would go digging through mountains and mountains of DC comics, old DC comics, looking for those few Marvels. But it was funny because that's how I stumbled onto stuff like Neil Adams,
yeah.
you know, and some of the
Stuff
just
like
mind blowing.
Green Lantern and that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Uh, for the first comic that really comes to my mind that I ever got that I remember buying off the stands is I think it's Amazing Spider-Man 121, the one that it's the first appearance of the Punisher.
Yeah.
But that's the first one I ever bought off the rack, according to my memory, and I'm 51,
Yeah.
and you know,
The first one I probably ever got for myself was probably one I saw on the shelf and thought I had to have that was probably. Do you remember the Star Brand? Do you remember New Universe from
yeah,
Marvel Comics?
I do,
Yeah,
I
that
totally do.
the first issue of that was probably the first one that I wanted myself and had to have, and I had to draw stuff out of there by John Romita Jr.
Right.
Draw some of the characters out of there, and drawing stuff out of comics is probably how I learned to draw comics myself.
That's right down the
And
road. I was wanting to ask you, was Ramita Jr. the first like influence,
yeah,
the first like creator that you like recognized and you said, I want more books by this guy?
yeah, I think so because uh, the first thing I probably noticed him on was probably Starbrand.
Hmm.
But then I kind of backed up and went back to his X
Right.
Men run.
Yeah.
Remember when he was doing X Men with
Oh yeah.
Claremont,
Yeah.
and then he went on to do Daredevil with Ann Nocenti. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
Oh
It was
man, that's
amazing.
my favorite Daredevil. I mean, everybody talks about how great Frank Miller is,
But
and
this
I'm
stuff
like,
right
oh
after it was mind blowing.
yes, the Ann Nocenti and John Romita Jr. stuff. That was my Daredevil. You
Right
know,
on.
so great.
How old were you when that stuff was coming out? Because I was about 19 or 20. I was in college.
Ah, sheesh. That's probably what, like mid to late '80s, something.
Yeah. It was
So I
like,
was
that was probably
about,
like 88, 89.
yeah, 88 or 89. I was probably about 13 or 14. I was born in
Wow.
75.
Okay, right
So,
on, right on. So you're not so much younger than me.
no.
I like to always, go on and on about being 51. I'm so old. I'm so old. You know.
I mean, I'm 45, so I'm like, I just turned 45, so I'm like,
Well,
oh God, I'm
dude,
getting so old
you're like me though in that regard. Is I would
now.
never be able to put a number on you. It's like you kind of defy age. It's like when you don't give a shit, it
Yeah,
shows. So how
I
about
just never.
today? Who are the creators that you really look at as influential to you today?
Mhm.
And also, what are the books and what are the characters that you really today or care about outside of the ones that you create?
Well, it's kind of twofold for me because you have writers and artists. I try to write and I try to draw as well. Uh, as far as writers go, I really like Warren Ellis's stuff. Anything that
Me
Warren
too.
Ellis does is a lot of fun, pretty
Me too.
entertaining usually, and thought provoking. Because he does a lot of stuff about transhumanism and things like that,
Yes,
people changing their bodies in order to sort of meet the future, I guess.
absolutely. Yeah, he's a
And
futurist for sure.
yeah, uh, so there's probably that. Other writers, I like Jeff Lemire.
Hmm.
There's a new company out, TKO
Uh-huh.
Studios, putting out some great stuff by Jeff Lemire.
I'll try it. I'll try it. I've been waiting for one person to
Yeah,
endorse it because I read about it and I love some of those creators as well. So I will definitely try it based on your
yeah.
recommendation.
You should
Thank you.
definitely, the two I would recommend, this is just me personally, I don't know what your taste would run to, but The Fearless Dr. Fang, which is by a guy named Zichun and an artist named Dan McDade.
Hey, would you
And
say that one more time? We had a little distortion there. Would you say it one more time?
it's The Fearsome Dr. Fang
Gotcha.
by Z Chun, I think is how you pronounce his name.
Right on.
And the artist is Dan McDade. The other
Right on.
one is The Seven Deadly Sins,
Hmm.
which is also, I think, written by Z Chun
Okay.
and drawn by a Russian artist named Artyom Trakhanov. I probably murdered his name, but
Yeah,
as
no.
close as I can get. But yeah, those are the two I recommend. But
Cool.
as far as artists go, Keith Giffen is a huge artistic influence on me. I love Giffen's stuff, that chunky line he always
Yeah.
draws, the
Yeah.
squiggly stuff he used to do back when he was drawing like Trencher. You remember
I
Trencher?
do, man. I was one of the fans for that book. I was one of the handful of people that was brokenhearted when it just kind of fizzled out and disappeared.
Kind of
But
went
yeah,
away. Yeah, it just kind of disappeared after a
yeah,
while. After like 4 issues, I think.
yeah, yeah. Image had that going for a while. Remember, it was like they would put a lot of heat into something, getting all those new books out, and then
Yeah.
they would just kind of
And
fizzle out.
then it
Yeah.
disappeared like mist or something.
And it was always
But
the really cool shit like Trencher as well,
yeah,
that would
I mean, it's like
disappear.
really stuff that like push the envelope and stuff
Right.
like that. Just
But thank God they did, and thank God for Vertigo. I've been
yeah,
rereading a lot of Vertigo lately. I just got the Doom Patrol omnibus, and it's just
uh,
striking to me how much how much that pre-Vertigo stuff influenced
yeah,
all of the comics that came after.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, like the stuff that Alan Moore and Steve Bissett and all those guys were doing on Swamp Thing that
Absolutely.
led into all the stuff that Vertigo did. Like that led to Neil Gaiman doing Sandman,
Yeah.
and then outside of Vertigo, that led to James Robinson doing Starman.
Yep.
That was like 80 issues of superhero, which is unheard of in these
Yeah.
days. A
Yeah.
run that you
Yeah.
wouldn't never see these days.
Absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah, and but yeah, the Doom Patrol by Grant Morrison, that was the first one that I saw on the shelf, and I was like, oh my god, those Simon Bisley covers that I
Yeah.
had there,
Yeah.
I saw, I was like, oh my god, I gotta have that. That's
Yeah.
my that just blew my mind.
I
And
think
then
I'm.
the story by Grant Morrison and Richard Case was just
Yes. I think I did buy the first few issues though, just based in. Actually, I got them out of like a 25-cent box because they were over ordering everything like crazy back then. And I was
yeah,
just flipping through there and I saw those Bisley covers or Bisley covers. I was like, holy shit. And I just pulled them out and bought them for 25 cents just based on the
yeah.
covers. And then went home and went, what the fuck?
Yeah, you're like, what the hell? I mean, these covers, you could get them for the covers alone. Never
Absolutely.
mind the story. The story's great, and the art inside is great, but you could get them for the covers alone because Simon
Absolutely.
was insane.
Yeah.
And this is around the same time he was doing Lobo, also.
Right. Right.
So
Well, I'm
he's
like you. I get drawn in normally by the writer, by the creation behind it. But
Yeah.
if I am drawn in by an artist, then I will buy it regardless of how. And usually those guys get paired with better writers anyway.
Yeah.
But I will buy stuff by people like Travis Charest,
Uh,
uh, John Cassidy,
yep.
Simon Bisley. I will buy stuff by people like that, regardless of if there's a writer involved or not. You
Yeah.
know.
Like, I mean, going back to Warren Ellis,
Yeah.
John Cassaday did Planetary with
Yeah.
him. One of my all-time favorite comics.
Yeah.
And if you haven't read it, just
Dude,
insane.
I've got a great story on that. So I was actually in Kentucky
Yeah.
when Desperados came out by Cassidy.
Yeah.
And I was at my local comic book store, and the guy that owned it just told me, he said, "Hey man, if you want to see something interesting," he said, "I don't know if you're into Westerns or not." And I am, as you know. He said,
Yeah.
but take a look at this book, man. Everybody's overlooking it and the art. And I picked it up and I was like, sold, and I'd never even heard of John Cassidy at that point.
Yeah.
And so I bought it. No, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But I was rapturously in love with his art, man, for those issues of Desperados. And then I happened to get to meet him at the Chicago convention, right between Desperados and Planetary.
Yeah.
And he was at a table and nobody was talking to him, bro. He was completely alone, just like an orphan. And me and my buddy stood there and talked to him for like 20. Yeah, we talked to him for like a half an hour, and he goes, "You're gonna really love what's coming up." And he gave me this like poster that was long and narrow for Planetary, and he talked to me about Planetary, and he signed it in a silver marker and all this. And he gave me a lot of like heads up on Planetary before it ever came out and stuff. And then the next year that I saw him was at the San Diego convention, and I couldn't even get near. I couldn't get near the motherfucker.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild how that happens? People talk about overnight success, and for guys like Cassidy, it doesn't feel overnight. For us, we know this. It does not feel overnight.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because, Desperados where he really got attention. Yeah. And then he moved over to Marvel, and he was doing a lot of they were good, but it was like lesser known characters like Union Jack.
Right. But it was so cool to pick stuff up. Have a reason to get Union Jack was cool.
Like stuff like it's all right because he's drawing it. Right. But, otherwise I probably wouldn't have read it.
Absolutely. But, insubstantial story, but just page by page looking at the Cassidy art. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you need is the Cassidy art. And, but yeah, then when he went on to Planetary, I mean, I love everything he's done since then.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's never done something like Planetary.
No, he's never clearly had the passion for anything that he had for Planetary. And that puts that book up on the shelf of stuff like Sandman and stuff that's untouchable, Yep. It's bulletproof.
I mean, he's done Astonishing X-Men. He did a fairly long run on the Astonishing
Absolutely.
X-Men.
And it was good. I loved it, but it did not have that Planetary
that passion that Planetary had. And Planetary was something that just kind of dug into everything in the history of comics.
I loved it.
Everything. It just went into every sort of genre and medium that you could think of. They did an issue that was a Hong Kong action movie, shoot 'em up. And
stuff that was like pulpy, like more like Pulp Fiction. That was more, the old the Doc Savagey stuff, where it was almost like reading a pulp novel instead of looking at a comic book, And then starting to, like you said, as they progress into stuff like the Fantastic Four with the overall arcing, story of the Four and stuff like that. It was just, oh man. So
I love that. I love that idea of the pulp characters that Warren Ellis has so much love for.
Yeah.
Fighting that modern Marvel, sort of sensibility, the Marvel method and the Marvel style. And I love the idea that they're the bad guys and that these pulp heroes from the past they're the real heroes.
That's right.
Those you really need to pay attention to, not the Marvel.
Yeah, exactly.
And, I love Marvel, but I was like,
but I get it. Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah,
it's funny.
Yeah, it's weird that stuff like Marvel is like, especially if you're a longtime comic reader fans, that sometimes when you find yourself hating something, it's a weird hate. It's a love hate.
Yeah.
Even when you don't like something. When you look at writers, you're talking about Warren Ellis, and I know we're both fans of other common writers like Grant Morrison and stuff, and then we look at artists like John Cassidy, and you talk about other influences like Keith Giffen and stuff. I like you for both. I got drawn into you as a writer. I mean, as an artist, as an illustrator, and
Yeah.
then I got introduced to you as a writer. You know, with stuff like in the Kurt Belcher's world and stuff. But what motivates you? What are you more passionate about? If you could only do one or the other, would it be writing, or would you rather work on like illustration and stuff?
That's a tough question because
Yeah, I knew it
I
would
love
be.
doing both of them. Yeah. Uh, as a kid, it was always illustration. It was always drawing. Like I
Right,
said, I kind of learned to draw from Starbrand and all those early New Universe comics and everything.
right.
So I love art, but if I had to choose between the two of them, it would probably be writing. Even though
Okay.
I don't think I'm that good a writer,
Hmm.
I don't think I'm a very good writer, but it's something that I always have to struggle with. With art, it always kind of felt natural to me.
Hmm.
Came to me
It
naturally,
kind
and
of wants to come out.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
something that I just felt drawn to, from the
Hmm.
time I was a kid. But as far as writing is work,
Right. Me too.
to me. To me, writing is like I have to put in the work. I
Yeah.
have to do my best to make this, to tell the story.
Yeah.
And uh, so if I had to do one of them, it would probably be writing because I found a love for writing that I didn't have when I was
Yeah.
younger because I never really thought about it.
Yeah.
Storytelling and working on craft and stuff like that. So
Well,
if I
uh,
had to choose between the two, it'd probably be writing.
well, I was really wondering because when I see you on stuff like Stink and
Uh,
on Rottentail
yeah,
that you drew, but
yeah,
you're not listed as the writer, I still
yeah.
kind of feel your influence on it. And I wondered what was the process on those? Is it something where they completely give you a script and you're not involved in the writing? Because like I said, I kind of feel your influence on that. I wondered what were the influence on, I mean, what was the process on Rottentail and Stink? And if they're completely different, you might want to break them apart.
Yeah, they were both fairly the same as far as the writing approach came. It was pretty full script on
Okay.
both of those. It was a case of that I would pretty much follow the script that was as it was written.
Now, does anything that you draw ever make them go back and change the script?
Uh, I don't know, not that I know of. I mean, I can't think of a specific example, but I mean, I guess it may be in terms of altering dialogue and where dialogue takes place and how dialogue flows on a page. Uh, in the present day, I'm currently drawing Son of Rottentail, which is
Right on. You sent me that page right before.
yeah.
Can I post that on when I post your interview? Can I post that page, or is that something I should keep secret?
Yeah, you can post that. I think I'll
Okay,
probably post it to
cool.
Facebook later.
Yeah,
Uh,
okay, I will too then.
okay. Uh, but yeah, as far as Son of Rottentail goes, David Hayes, who's the
Hmm.
writer on it, and also the writer on the movie adaptation,
Hmm.
which was directed by Brian Skiba. I should probably uh,
Absolutely.
yeah
Give them
call out
props.
to everybody.
Shout
Source
out.
Point Press, yeah, Brian Skiba, Travis McIntyre,
How,
Kevin Moyer, all those guys.
how did you get connected on that particular project? Because I know you're going down the Rotten Tail road for me right now. So let me back up
Yeah,
just a second and ask you, how did you get involved with David and with Rotten Tail and Source Point?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Uh, it was probably
So it's kind of organic. It's like you
yeah,
guys have known each other.
yeah. I mean, he probably like posted on a website asking for artists to send
Gotcha. Yeah.
stuff like sample art and stuff, and he hit on me to draw Rottentail. That was probably like I don't know, 2006 or
Oh, right on.
2007,
Right on.
and we did the book fairly quickly after that, but it didn't really see print from Source Point Press until yeah, there you go. I've got my copy here somewhere. There you go. Uh, but it didn't really see print from Source Point Press until a couple of years ago, and they really got behind it. We put out copies at the Pikeville Comic Con, which has been going on
Hmm.
for the last 3 years here locally. That was a huge hit. We sold out of it, and I think David sold out of it at a bunch of his other places. But as far as how we hooked up, I think it was just he said I send me some art, some samples of art, and I did it, and we put it out, and it existed for years. He had put out like a rough print of it
Hmm.
years before it ever saw print from Source Point Press. But yeah, I mean, as far as that goes, he as far as the sequel goes, Son of Rottentail, he sent me the screenplay because he had written the screenplay for this movie sequel.
Right on.
You know, and so I've been adapting it from the screenplay rather than from a comic style.
So is that's completely different than the way you guys did the first book then,
Oh
right?
yeah, completely different.
Cool.
I'm
That gives you a little more input then, right? As far as brings those writing sensibilities back into the artistic process.
Yeah. And that gets back to sort of what you were talking about earlier with my sensibilities sort of informing what Stink and Rottentail both look like. But I think I think an artist has to try to have some kind of influence because you know, writers form everything,
right?
You know, from the script, and so you're working from the script and trying to tell that story in visual terms, and so you do your best to try to inject yourself into the art, you know, as the
absolutely
artist. And I think that happened a lot with Stink, which is written by Chuck Messenger, is another shout out I have to give, and published by published by Source Point Press. Yeah.
Which people, let me grab that one really quick too, because this is a really funny book.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of the stuff that Kurt works on. It's just got madness on every page. I mean, it's like you read this, and I found myself laughing out loud a few times, and I also just found myself kind of like shaking my head sometimes, going, "Holy shit!" You know. And
there's so much wrong stuff in it. Chuck,
but it's adorable. It never feels like insulting or offensive, even when it's very like gutter humor, like offensive to my grandma. It's not offensive on a social level. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's not making anybody feel bad about themselves. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's sort of like just ribbing between friends.
It's good-natured gutter humor.
Oh, you're this, you're that, you're stupid, you're ugly, you know.
Right.
It's that kind of book. But Chuck Messenger said he actually put it together from suggestions that he got on Facebook. He asked people for suggestions about what he should make a book about.
Oh,
and everybody had this long list of stuff that he should do, and he put that all into the book. You know.
Oh, right on.
Totally crazy.
So he kind of like almost like crowdsourced ideas, like madness to bring into it. That's cool. Well, I've really appreciated our collaboration that we've gotten to do, like just like so people know, I've gotten to work with Kurt on just like little individual things. I'll come up with some kind of crazy idea, and I'll send Kurt a text in the middle of the night or early in the morning or in the afternoon. It doesn't matter. When it comes to me, I send it to Kurt, and I'm like, you know, I've got this crazy idea, and no matter what time it is, he almost always texts me right back and says, yeah, I can do that, you know. So we've come up with a couple of like
what is the podcast that you do that's the live reading of scripts? From Twilight Zone and other shows.
That's been a blast. Like making those coloring pages has been a dream come true for me because I've always wanted to do a coloring book. And I noticed when I was looking at, I think it was at the Kurt Belcher's World, I think it was looking at that. No, it was at the Stars, that there was an ad that Ben and those guys have done their own coloring books. And I didn't really realize that I'm not the only nerd out there that's older, but it's still obsessed with coloring books, you know, and I am.
They got into a couple of years ago. This is Pilot Studios by Ben Ferrari. Another shout out. Woo! They did a Pilot Studios coloring book that had a lot of stuff from, you know, art from me and a lot of art from a lot of other people in there. And they also did one for a book that I drew called Sun Chasers, which was written by Buck Weiss.
Okay.
And they did a totally Sun Chasers coloring book, which was basically just the comic that they had in black and white that you could go and color in.
Oh, right on. Dude, you know what I wanted to do? And this is like, I want to talk to you in a second about something specific, but you were doing all these individual pieces during the Twin Peaks revival a couple of years ago. And every time I would look at those, I was just thinking to myself, I wish David Lynch would see this and just call Kurt and say, Kurt, I'm authorizing you to make a Twin Peaks coloring book, you know? And that would just be fucking amazing. The Twin Peaks coloring book with artwork from Kurt Belcher would be amazing.
Yeah. That'd be so much fun.
Hey, we're talking about writing an artist process and stuff like that. And to make sure I get this in, because we've probably got about 10 minutes left, I want to talk to you about one of the other, recently you sent me something that, dude, I loved. And I can't express how much I loved it. For me, it's weird. It's just a gut feeling. And, you know, it's based purely on my own bias by how much I love the particular book. But We Eat the Living from you and Rob Cronenborg. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah. Yeah.
That book hit me in a place that I think if that book gets in front of the right people, that's your breakthrough book, man. That book has some kind of weird, again, it's weird to say because it's so strange, but it has mass appeal in my mind. The way that it looks, the way that it feels, it's absolutely on the money, dude. That may be one of my very favorite things ever from you guys.
Yeah.
From you. But so what's the process on that? Because I saw that it says you list both of you guys as writers and illustrators. So how are you guys balancing that?
Well, that one's kind of a weird one because Rob is very much a creator in his own right.
Gotcha.
You know, and originally we had gotten together to do. I had sent him an email. I knew him from he had worked with Mark Bertolini on what's it called? Oh, I can't remember the name of it. Something from Action Lab. I can't remember the name of the book.
Okay.
Scum of the Earth. There you
go.
Yeah. They had worked together on that. And so I had sent an email to Rob and said, we should work together on something, a short or something.
Yeah.
He said, well, send me some ideas. So I sent him some ideas for kind of a dark superhero story and also a dark Western, which is what became We Eat the Living. And originally we did the superhero idea, which became the World Front, which is out from Action Lab.
Cool.
And the process on that was sort of, it's weird. It's a weird organic process because I send him ideas. He draws a bunch of stuff and has his own ideas, sort of writing these pages. And then I come back in and sort of dialogue a little bit. And he just goes off from whatever story he wants to tell, basically. And that's sort of the same thing that happened with We Eat the Living. Is
right on.
And I sent him an idea, and he said, well, I want to do this. And he went off in some other, direction. And I was like, cool, I'll dialogue that. I don't care. I'll co-write ideas, whatever you want to do. And so that's kind of been what we've been doing with We Eat the Living. We're working on number 2 right now.
Awesome. Are you guys going to do a Kickstarter or anything like that? Because I will definitely get behind it, and I'll make sure other people support it, man. I'm behind that book. Whatever ways you guys need support, I'm there to support that book.
We're going to wait until it's done or almost done in order to send it to a publisher or something.
Right on.
Try to get somebody to do it. But the division of labor on that is he's drawing most of it, but I'm drawing some specific flashback pages for the story, and he's inking them.
Gotcha.
And then I'm going back and dialoguing them. And we have colors from a guy named Paul Little. Which is
right on. The colors are really good on there too, man.
What's that?
It looks great. I mean, it looks great.
I mean, I think it's one of the most professional books I think we've put together.
I couldn't agree more. Like I said, to me, it's hitting a sweet spot, man. It's just it's that lightning in a bottle. This is it. If it gets in front of the right people, like I said, this is a breakthrough book, and it'll only, of course, put light onto the other works that you've done as well. And so my fingers are crossed. And like I said, I will be there to support you on this title every step of the way, man.
Same. That's and it combines 2 ideas that I love. I love horror. I love horror movies and horror novels and comics, and I love Westerns. I love Western movies and comics.
Me too. So
that sort of puts together 2 ideas that I really love, and I think we don't see enough of. We don't see enough horror Western smash ups, and so I mean I think it's a really fun idea. Just seeing zombies in the Old West as bounty hunters.
I love it. I'm trying to think. Let me find my notes on that page. I wrote cowboys, Indians, zombies, magical nutsacks.
Yeah.
Let me just say that I love this book.
And that's the Rob idea, by the way. The nutsacks, the magical nutsacks. That's a Rob idea. I should point that out. Give him total credit for that.
When I read that, the notes that I sent you back was just like this shit is just batshit crazy. That's the way that I feel about it. But it's chaos in control, which is the thing that I like. That's the way I create stuff too, is where you want it to feel like it could fly off the rails at any time, but it doesn't. It keeps on keeping on down the road, and you guys have done something really good there. And
that's pretty much our collaborative effort, is like a controlled tornado. Both of us throwing stuff in there, and it swirls together and creates something weird.
Hopefully. Tell me a little bit about this book, because I know that it's also one of your most passionate projects?
Oh yeah, stars. Yeah, that's one of my.
This is your baby, right?
I wrote Andrew myself. Not always punch myself. Yeah, the stars. Uh, yeah, this one that I love. It's a superhero story. I love superhero stories. But on the one hand, you have love for that. I mean, if you like comics, you probably like superhero comics,
right?
Because they're so indelibly tied together.
Especially in America, for sure.
Yeah, but also it's hard to do superhero comics because you have DC and you have Marvel. So I mean, if you want superheroes, you go to one or the other. You don't necessarily go to an independent
right.
publisher or creator.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's something that kind of grew out of my love of Planetary and Authority by Warren Ellis with art by Brian Hitch and everything. It kind of grew out of all of those. And
I could feel the influences of the other books, but it never felt like a ripoff of any other book. Do you know what I mean? But you could feel the influences of it. But one of the things I liked about the writing of it was that you could see where it was playing with like those guys do, playing with the ideas of other writers. But it was the way you execute the story in that 3 issues of the Stars called The Three. It's really interesting because again it goes off, it's kind of like that controlled chaos thing. It starts off in one direction and you think it's going somewhere, but then it just really takes an abrupt turn that still makes sense. Do you know what I mean? And you do that throughout, and so a lot of it for me when I was reading the Stars became about the relationships. It's like you said, it is a superhero comic and it's a comic, so you can't avoid the action and the fight scenes. But what you really kind of try to instill in the Stars is kind of the subtext. You're playing more with like who the characters are. It's more character driven than, for instance, what we grew up reading, thinking about superhero smash ups.
Yeah, that was one of the first books that I really started taking the writing seriously and really started to try to make the story about the characters rather than just a bunch of people fighting each other.
Which is fun, but
yeah, I mean that's fun. It's a big widescreen destruction like Authority. That's fun,
Right.
But I also tried to instill some character in it and instill some art into it with the relationships between all these characters, like Amazing Girl being this sort of superhero groupie who's brought into the big leagues, and becomes a member of the Stars, and but also tackling that stuff, that widescreen action stuff.
Absolutely.
Big, powerful superhero comics that have a lot of punch to them and everything. But I mean, that's the first one that I really started digging in and trying to find emotional connections between the characters in the story and really kind of involve them rather than just doing action, or doing story. It's character, but story.
So I know it's been a long process on getting those 3 issues out, and with all the other work that you are constantly doing, working with Rob on We Eat the Living, working on Son of Rottentail, and trying to get paying jobs and things like that makes it tough to follow our passions sometimes. But what do you think is next for the Stars? When can people expect to see more of that?
I don't know. That's a good question. Number 4 is completely drawn. It needs to be, some of it needs to be inked and some of it needs to be colored. But it's just a matter of when I get time between all these other books that I'm drawing right now. I'm drawing Son of Rottentail. I'm drawing a book called Luther Frankenstone for a writer named C.W. Cook. I'm drawing, who knows? I'm drawing Chilling that I'm writing myself.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna bug you again at some point. I'm probably gonna get you to draw some pages for Vengeance Turns for me for the Western that we're working on right now. So be prepared for that. Before we do get off of here, I wanted to ask you about this one too, because we just got this one. I had already gotten number 1, and you just recently sent this to me, and I haven't gotten to read it yet. But you guys just finished number 3 as well, right?
Yeah, we're working on number 3 right now. I drew the cover for that one. That's the first one I drew the cover for.
Oh, right on.
We have colors from the legendary Laura Martin, who did the Planetary, colored Planetary.
Yeah.
did colors for it, and we've got a whole great lineup of Nazi punching fun. So
It's just
if
so
you hate
mean.
Nazis, pick it up.
You definitely do. And so, are you guys doing a Kickstarter for that one as well?
Yeah, we should be doing that in the near future. I'm not sure exactly when. I don't think the book is like 100% finished yet,
Mm-hmm.
but it's pretty close to being done.
So we could probably do a whole show, a whole other show, just talking about TV shows and
Uh,
cartoons and stuff,
yeah,
and probably a whole show just about Twin Peaks.
yeah,
But I did want to ask you, because I know it's a shared passion of ours. I did want to ask you a couple
yeah,
questions, and hopefully we won't run out of time. But I
yeah.
did want to ask you a couple questions about Twin Peaks. Hang on one second. Let me make sure I get these. So, how old were you when the series first came out? Because I was in my second year of college, so I was around 20. So this is, again, you were probably around 13 or 14, right?
Yeah, that was what, 1990,
Yeah,
somewhere
yeah,
in there.
right,
I was
right around
probably
there.
about 14 or 15. But the thing is, I didn't watch it when it was originally on. I didn't
That's what I
watch
was
it.
gonna ask. That's what I was gonna ask you. Is when you got
Yeah,
into it, were you an original?
I wasn't an original fan. I was in college. It was like
Oh
3 or 4
shit.
years later. You remember Suncoast Video?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I found the box set that had the original. You remember the European pilot?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it had the European pilot on it, VHS
Mm-hmm.
box set, and I
Yeah,
spent like
I bought the
$100.
gold box CD set or DVD set a couple of years ago, and it had
Yeah,
the European pilot on it as well.
yeah. I bought that on VHS. That shows how old I am. This is probably 1994 or something, probably
Right
95,
on, right on.
96 probably.
Okay,
But yeah, that was when I got into it, and I watched it nonstop. I mean, I
yeah,
watched the whole series, turned around and watched the whole series again
right on,
because it's so crazy. Because I've been hearing about it for years.
right
People
on.
have been talking to me about it, how great it was,
Yeah.
and I finally got it, and I was like, oh, mind blown by how good that series was.
I fell into it, and we'll have a conversation, like I said, some other time about my feelings and my experiences with Twin Peaks. Because
Yeah.
again, it's such a unique experience. But what got you into it? Who are your favorite characters? Who are the throwaway characters for you? You know,
I don't know. That's a tough one. I mean, my favorite characters are obviously,
Coop.
Cooper. Cooper obviously is a great character. I love Dr. Jacoby. I think
Hmm.
Jacoby is just so funny and
Yeah,
quirky in the whole
yeah,
series.
yeah. And that
And
actor was amazing. Russ Tamblyn.
yeah,
Yeah,
just sort of weird in that he had that relationship with Laura Palmer.
yeah, yeah,
And that was kind of like, I don't know about
yeah.
that, but also he was just a great, charming actor playing that character.
Totally. Yeah, there's
But
lots of ickiness on Twin Peaks. You know, lots of icky. You know,
yeah, I mean, a
yeah,
lot of it is like
yeah,
you kind of feel weird about, but
yeah.
also you love them so much. There's
Absolutely,
that's David Lynch. That's like
absolutely,
I love those characters, but they're so weird.
a
They're
hundred
so
percent,
kind of
100%.
nasty sometimes. But
So,
my least favorite character, I don't know. I mean, I'm one of those weird people that like season two. I think for
mhm,
me, season two is Twin Peaks. That's what I
okay,
think of as Twin Peaks.
yeah,
The relationship between Cooper and Annie.
yeah. For me,
Just
the first
how,
half of the second season is what
yeah,
I think of as being Twin Peaks.
yeah. But I mean, also, I mean, you get into it and you get into everything that goes on in season two. That whole arc with Nadine and Mike.
Right,
Towards the end of the season, the whole arc with Big Ed and Norma
right.
finally getting together. Finally getting to be with each other. And that's sort of, for me, that was sort of like, that is Twin Peaks. The
Hmm.
first season is great. It's wonderful. It's groundbreaking
But it
TV.
just kind of takes you to the edge of the cliff, and it just leaves you there. Whereas
Yeah,
the next season, they start dropping the other shoe, and
yeah. And it's like in season two, David Lynch just kind of disappears,
hmm,
until the end of the season.
right.
And David Lynch hasn't made any secret of the fact that he hated season two.
His
And
whole
so,
experience of working with ABC was pretty
yeah,
miserable. If you ever read those interviews and stuff, yeah, it was a pretty bad experience, and he's been screwed by them a few times now. In fact,
yeah, you hate season two, and that was sort of, I think, one of the reasons he wanted to come back and do season three was that he wanted to kind of do a redo of
yeah.
season two and kind of set things right with season two.
So coming to
Uh,
that, so what are your feelings about that? Because I know that you have very strong feelings against season three, and I'm in the process of rewatching it right now, by the way. And
I'm in the process of rewatching season 1, but the thing I should mention is that season 3 made me hate Twin Peaks.
I know that's why I wanted to bring it up, because it had such a strong effect on you. Where is it in the series of season 3? Where does it happen that you're like, fuck this thing, fuck it?
Well, season 3 is like, before it ever started, I was like, season 3, as long as they don't kind of screw me story-wise and kind of leave it on a cliffhanger at the end, I'm fine. And of course, it screwed me story-wise and left it on a cliffhanger at the end. And I'm like, man, fuck this show. But in all seriousness, about probably episode 16 is when I was like, yeah, this is not gonna end the way that I not necessarily hope,
right,
but the way that maybe it should end.
Right.
And give sort of a definitive ending to it. I knew before the series started that it was going to be pure David Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were going to give David Lynch whatever he wanted in order to come back and do Twin Peaks.
Right.
So I knew it was going to be pure David Lynch.
Right.
But beyond that, I was like, as long as they give me something in Twin Peaks, in the town of Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
I wanted to see a lot more of the town of Twin Peaks.
I think that's my biggest complaint. Is too much time in South Dakota and places like that, you know.
Yeah,
too much about Dougie. The thing with Dougie, I'm just now at the point where the Dougie thing comes in on episode 4.
Yeah.
And so it did hit me, because I was like, okay, now this is where I kind of started having questions about this, you know, and I'm trying to stick with it though.
And that was the point where I was like, why aren't they doing this in Twin Peaks?
Right.
Why don't they have this stuff happen in Twin Peaks rather than having it happen in Las Vegas, New York, South Dakota, all these places? Because you could have that happen in Twin Peaks and have it make sense. And
at least put some anchor back in Twin Peaks, something that anchors it back there.
Yeah, that's the problem for me with Twin Peaks season 3, is that it doesn't have any Twin Peaks in it.
Right.
You know, you get there and you're like, it's almost, to me, and this may not be the case with how David Lynch and Mark Frost approached it, but it feels like to me like he's almost embarrassed about Twin Peaks.
Right. Almost like he's burying it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's taking all these characters like Hawk and Kimmy Robinson's character, and Hank Goza's character. He's taking all of them and saying, "Oh, look how silly they are. Let's go over here and look at South Dakota and Las Vegas, and this other stuff."
Right.
So for me, it was like almost like he was kind of saying, "Just ignore Twin Peaks. We'll get back to that later. But I want to go into all this other stuff."
It's funny, because on that level, one of the things I've been thinking about is and again, I don't disagree with you on that, because it seems like that there's something about him wanting something he wasn't allowed to explore in season 2 about leaving the real world, not just Twin Peaks, but leaving the real world behind. You know, getting and exploring the Black Lodge, the White Lodge, and all that stuff that I believe that he was prevented from doing. That, like you were just saying, I think that somehow or another he reflexed off of that so hard that it made him miss a little bit. You know, that he was asking a lot of his fans. You know, to kind of come with me, and I want you to share my disdain for the way Twin Peaks the show was treated by the way we're going to abuse Twin Peaks the town.
Yeah.
now.
I think so. I mean, I agree with that, because for me, it was like like you said, he reflexed off that so hard that he tried to get as far away from that as he could with season 3 and kind of do something completely outside of what we had seen with Twin Peaks before, even like Firewalk with Me, you know, which was really far off the TV show.
And very controversial at the time. When it came out, people that were big, passionate fans of the show were like, fuck this thing, man, you know, but I loved it.
We want to see more of the TV show. We don't want to see a movie that talks about something that happened already.
Right.
You know, we want to see more going into the future with Twin Peaks.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think, but also there was the fact that it was like 25 years later, you know, and the fact that David Lynch had changed as an artist and wasn't really interested in telling the same kind of stories.
100%.
Yeah. And he was kind of like, well, let's just do something different. Let's just do something that the fans don't expect, just something weird and very Lynchian, I guess. And
you know, he still got some pushback. There's a really good video out there. I'll see if I can find it. I'll send it to you. Yeah. Where it shows him talking to 2 executives, and it's on a little YouTube video, and he is fucking furious, man, because of the fact that they're pushing back against him on the amount of time that he's wanting to spend on a certain stage.
Yeah.
Okay. And he's like,
well, there's a female executive there saying, well, how much time are we going to have with this episode and with this scene? And he's like,
I don't know.
Fucking care how much time we're going to have with that scene. Who fucking gives a shit?
Stop trying to nail me down. Exactly. You know, he's like, wow, we own the fucking stage. You know, he said, I understand.
Meditation. Holy shit. You know what? I hate to see him when he's not into transcendental meditation. But it's like, yeah, I mean, he's just like totally goes off on him. And it's like, I can't fucking believe these people are trying to, curb my time, and trying to make these stupid points about how much time I'm spending on a subject in order to.
I'm not worried about the money. He's like, fuck it.
Time. I just want to make whatever story I want to make.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big thing. And I think that was probably what Showtime told him. You have complete creative freedom to do whatever you want to do.
Right.
And edit it however you want to do it. We'll put it on air.
Right.
And
so, this is what we got.
Yeah. Whatever you got, we'll do it. It's like, what is it, episode 8 with like the H-bomb going off in Nevada or whatever? Yeah, it's like that. Who would have done something like that?
The end of the first few episodes is really exciting. Like when the thing about Cooper almost passing through, and at the end of season 2, he's floating in space and stuff. You're like, holy shit, this is what I was wanting. And then all of a sudden they're like, Dougie.
And it's like, why are you doing this thing in Las Vegas with Dougie where he's stuck for like 10 or 12 episodes as Dougie? And I'm like, oh my God, Dougie? Why is Dougie?
How much acid did I take, and why did I take so much acid? It's like, what the fuck is this? Hey man, thank you very much for today. I really appreciate it. For one thing, just getting to finally get to have a conversation with you instead of just you and I passing texts back and forth, but also because it's literally my first live interview. So
anytime you want to do this again, I'm down for it. Any other talks you want to have, any kind of podcast or whatever.
Well, let's count on it 100%. But before we
go, a whole episode on Twin Peaks.
Let's do it. Let's do a talk on
Twin Peaks for like an hour.
We can even bring in a couple other people. We can have a big like Twin Peaks fight or something live. But before we go, I want to turn the mic over to you really, and just give you an opportunity to pitch and to promote anything that you want to. And then after we get off of here, we'll text and stuff back and forth. But I'll put out links to anything you want me to put out links to. But take over right now and just tell people what they need to look out from you, because I'm looking forward to more stars. I'm looking forward to the sequel to Rottentail.
Yeah. Really, most of what I would talk about, we've already talked about on here. Like, Always Punch Nazis. That's coming out soon. So just keep an eye out for that on Kickstarter.
Where can people keep up with you, man? If they want to just keep up with you and they want to see beyond these projects, after that, where can people find you? What's your Instagram handle? Where can they find you on Facebook and stuff? Is there any websites that you want to push or promote?
Yeah, I'm on Amazon. Just look me up on Amazon, and you should be able to find like a whole author.
I'll put the link. I'll put the link to your page out in the comments section of this when I post it later.
Just hit me up, and I'll give you the link for it. And
cool.
I'm on there. I'm on Indie Planet.
Okay. What's your Instagram handle?
What's that?
What's your Instagram handle?
I think it's Kurt Belcher, just one word. Okay. But I'm not for absolutely sure.
Well, I've got it, and I'll put it again. I'm going to put it in the comments when I post this video. I'll put some comments underneath it, and I'll post some links and stuff there, and I'll do a separate post with some links as well.
Sounds good.
Cool, man.
But yeah, just keep an eye out for us. Keep an eye out for David Hayes. He's got a lot of stuff always in the pipeline. Source Point Press. Of course, everybody is kind of losing a lot of revenue and things from the coronavirus, because there's no conventions, and that's how a lot of these small publishers make their money.
Does it help those guys if more people are buying, for instance, like Rottentail the movie on Amazon? Does that help Source Point help you?
I think that would be a big help, or ordering it straight from the Source Point Press website.
That's a good idea too.
.com.
Right on. I'll put the link out there.
I think just buy their books. Buy their books, buy their other stuff that they've got, and for any small publisher, just buy their books. If you like any of their books, go to their websites, go to Amazon and find their books and buy them.
And Kurt made a good point there is before you go to Amazon, try going to these publishers' sites and try going to try checking out your local comic book store and see if they can order it and stuff. And if you're having problems finding it, then go to Amazon because they can basically find anything. But man, right now, especially during all this tragedy, sometimes even the creators themselves, Kurt, like, could people buy books from you? Do you have any books that people could buy directly from you right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I have books that I can. I have copies of Always Punch Nazis too.
Okay.
I have copies of a bunch of my other books that I can sign or sketch in or whatever people want me to do. I can do that.
Cool.
But yeah, I mean, somebody made up a good point a while later that, or a while ago, that if you buy stuff on Amazon, all those publishers and creators exist off of Amazon, have their own websites.
That's right.
So, like you said, go to those places first. If you can't find it there, then go to Amazon.
That's right.
For the last resort.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, because Jeff Bezos is a billionaire. He doesn't need the money as much as Source Point Press does.
No, absolutely,
but,
man.
Yeah. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to talk about all this stuff.
No, it was my pleasure, man. And like I said, I enjoyed every single second of it. Let's continue our talking offline and, off of this recording. And when this thing is processed and everything later, I'll post it. I'll send you a link. Mm-hmm. And I'll promote it a little bit too. So I'll help you get the word out about Kurt Belcher and about Source Point Press and all your projects, man. I'm very thrilled to be in your orbit, brother. Thank you very much.
Same here.
Have a great day.
I'm looking forward to Vengeance Returns.
Thank you, man. Saturday we start live. Please watch the live stream Saturday. These people are so excited, man. Finally, I've got a group of actors ready to do it.
I did the drawing for that, and I love that story, that character. American character.
I've got another sketch I want you to do, but I'm going to talk to you about it offline.
Yeah.
And I understand if you can't get to it, but I'll pitch you on it when I get off of here.
Yeah.
Thank you, buddy.
See ya.
Peace.